valid meeting ID, and that's the reason it took a time. But it was good that Mohit sir called immediately. And yes, just a moment. I'll be showing you all videos today. Yes. I have to select that option. Yes. So in the previous session, we had taken care of the different activities that were involved in committee-wise activities is what the brainstorming activity that we looked into. Okay, now essentially today we will be looking into swim lane diagrams. What do you understand by that? I remember one of the students, he had given, or he had come up with the importance of swim lane diagrams, and that's when I had said that yes, essentially we'll be looking into swim lane diagrams, but first we look into the mapping of processes, identify the processes and the activities, and only then we can come up with the swim lane diagrams. So it's very little bit of theory as far as swim lane diagrams is concerned. We look more into how do we actually prepare a swim lane diagram, and that's what we will be exactly doing with the example that we have looked into last time. Okay, so let us begin today. So basically, initially when people started presenting their ideas, that's where flowcharts came into the picture. From flowcharts, we had process charts that were being prepared, and then later on there were multi-column process charts that evolved, okay, for decision making purpose, to give a bird's eye view of what goes into an particular department or what goes within a particular process. Okay, and when slowly and steadily, as one or more departments, in order to show the connectivity with the different departments of the processes that were being mapped, that's where swim lane diagrams came into the picture. Now they were more highlighted in a book that was written by the two authors, Gary Rumler and Alan Brach, that the book Improving Processes. So that's where they came up with, or they discussed the utility as such of the swim lane diagrams. Okay, so the purpose and benefits of swim lane diagrams are given to you. That's highlight processes or sub processes. Now we come to this theoretical aspect later. Let us look into how do we come with how do we draw a swim lane diagram as such, right? And then we come back to the theory part. I hope today you will be able to view this. I already had a word with Mohit sir, and he taught me how to take care of the things. So just see, and in case you are not able to listen to it, just let me know.
Today, we're talking about...
Hello?
Yes?
It's not visible.
You are just able to listen to
Today, we're talking about swim lane diagrams.
Okay, it's not visible?
It's visible.
Can you all be a bit louder? I'm not able to listen to you all.
No, ma'am, it's not visible.
Are you able to listen to the sound, or you're not able to do that even?
Yes, ma'am, able to listen sound.
Just you are able to listen to the sound. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute. हेलो, हाँ सर, वो लोग साउंड सुन सक रहे हैं लेकिन देख नहीं पा रहे. या directly मैं Yes, are you all able to view this now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, just a moment.
Today, we're talking about swim lane diagrams, exploring what they are, how they are used, why they are beneficial, and how to start making your own. A swim lane diagram, also sometimes called a cross-functional flowchart, diagrams a process from start to finish, but it also divides these steps into categories to help distinguish which departments or employees are responsible for each set of actions. These lanes are columns or rows that keep actions visually separated from others. A swim lane diagram makes responsibilities more clear than a regular flowchart. When looking to improve processes, knowing which department is responsible for what can help speed up the process of correcting inefficiencies and eliminating delays. Swim lane diagrams are useful in many ways. Often they can help you streamline complex processes.
I hope this is very well audible. Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, okay.
During any process improvement initiative, swim lanes help identify not just the bottlenecks in a process, but also who is responsible for them. A swim lane diagram is also useful in clarifying responsibilities and helping teams work together in a world where they often don't fully understand what the other teams do. This may help you find costly redundancies and duplications or gaps and communication problems. Swim lanes can also help you understand deeper layers of complexity in a process. Symbols can represent external factors such as peripheral processes, external data, and third-party entities, in addition to the familiar flowchart symbols and notation. Now let's go over how to build a swim lane flowchart. It's really easy to do using an automated drawing tool like SmartDraw. First, identify the lanes. Decide what divisions you need represented by swim lanes and label them. The lanes can run horizontally or vertically depending on the structure of your flowchart and what you think reads better. Now add your symbols. Define the starting point of the process. Add a rounded rectangle to the top of the appropriate swim lane to indicate its starting point and label it. Continue adding steps to your chart. Each step should be connected to the one before it with a line. In this example, to add steps in the same swim lane, add from top to bottom. To add a step in another division, go from left to right. With each step, describe what it represents until you reach the end of the process. The arrows between the steps indicate the transfer or flow of information. Continue to analyze your processes over time and update your flowchart as employees and teams change and responsibilities and tasks evolve. Those are the basics of swim lane diagrams. We hope this helps you with your own process documentation and improvements. Thanks for watching.
Okay. So that's where I hope it was very much self-explanatory as to how do we come up with the swim lane diagram. Okay, essentially we have looked into the symbols. Then they have utilized the same symbols, arrow charts. Then they have identified different departments and different levels of management hierarchy. Okay, and that's where they have shown with arrows how the process proceeds further, right? So now with this, that's where we look into the elements of the swim lane diagram. That's where each lane we saw that it was labeled by that actor. Now what we do mean by the actor over here is a person who is actually acting on a particular activity. Okay, now the actor, he could be an employee, he could be a work group department, or even an information system who is acting on that particular process, taking care of that particular process. So process steps are spelled out within the respective lanes. Okay, and they also shown that there is the interconnection between the steps between the lanes. Now this shows different. Yes, who is this? May I know? Yes, what's the matter, students? Okay, this shows how different actors interact to keep the process rolling efficiently. Now, when we discussed about our example, right, with respect to holding an intercollegiate SIP competition event, so that's where we identified different, what you say, activities with respect to the different committees, and then we also identified what are the functional departments that could be involved in carrying out the various activities by the committee members. All right, so that's where we will be having different lanes, either to identify the different departments, that functional departments that could be interconnected with, or maybe different groups, right? So that's where we look into one more what you say. Now this illustration is not that viewable clearly, but we'll come to this part later. We will see one more diagram with respect to detailed process mapping after we are done with the swim lane diagrams. Yes, so now just tell me whether you all are able to view this or not. We'll go to that this thing first, and then I'll share the screen with you all. And then we move on to how do we do it in take care of it in Excel.
In this video, we're going to continue our analysis of detailed process mapping techniques, and in particular, we'll look at swim lane diagrams. In this video, we're going to continue our analysis of detailed process mapping techniques, and in particular, we'll look at swim lane diagrams. The learning objectives are going to be to show some of the benefits of using a swim lane diagram for process improvement, including how the swim lane diagram can be used to help you analyze white space, how a swim lane diagram can be used to help you with collaborative drill down techniques. We'll look at the way swim lane diagrams can help you with stakeholder analysis and analyzing parallel flows. We'll provide you some examples of different swim lane diagrams, and we'll review some best and worst practices for building any type of detailed process map, not just a swim lane diagram. All right, I'm pulling pictures and information from the Business Process Improvement Workbook, and what I want to do before we dive into the details of a swim lane diagram is I want to compare it to a different type of process map that we've talked about. The map above this red line is a high-level process map. High-level process maps we use at the beginning of the define phase, primarily as a communication tool. This happens to be a high-level process map of everything from the customer being hungry to the customer eating. Looks like it would be, if I were going to call it, it's a process map of the pizza fulfillment process. Fits the criteria for high-level map. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4 decision box. We'll just call it 5, 6, 7 different steps or activities. Fits on a single page. Describes from beginning to end the customer's viewpoint of the system. Looks like a good high-level process map. I'd use that all the time in working with stakeholders and communicating what this project is about. The map below is a sometimes called deployment flow diagram or a swim lane diagram. It's in many ways a template that can be used for detailed process mapping. Let me clean up the screen a little and we'll zoom in. One of the things that I like about these swim lane diagrams is that they're relatively easy to read and interpret. Well, this is a high-level process map above. You can see that I can just superimpose specific steps into the swim lane diagram, and it's pretty easy to interpret and understand the flow through the system. What swim lane diagrams do, though, is they also include another important element for process analysis, and that is the stakeholder interaction within the process itself. And you can see here we've got the customer, we've got the cashier, the cook, and the delivery driver. And they each have their own lane because they all interact in the process flow itself.
Okay, so now just as we can see over here that a swim lane diagram has identified the different stakeholders meaning thereby the different parties that are connected to the entire swim lane diagram or a process map, okay, with respect to ordering of the pizza and taking care of the customer orders. So what are the different stakeholders involved? The customers, cashiers, cook, and the deliver. So similarly, we will be identifying the stakeholders with respect to our event. That's what we have looked into. Yes. So now let us look into the processes.
One of the reasons why I like this is because it then makes it easy for me when I'm working with those particular stakeholders, say in voice of customer interviews, I can meet up with the customer group and say, we want to take a look at these particular steps. They're steps that you interact with the process in. We'll be asking you a series of questions. If you've got any other feedback about the other activities, great, but we'll focus in on the ones that are inside your lane. But there's more. I like swim lane diagrams with with these separate lanes for stakeholders because it's also a great stakeholder analysis gap tool. Each of these important stakeholders should have been identified in our stakeholder analysis. And as we identified stakeholders and then prioritized the ones to do interviews for, they probably should have made it to our voice of customer interviews as well. I mean, they actually interact within the process, helping to create the final fulfilled product or fulfilled service request. If they aren't as candidates in our voice of customer interviews, I'll be asking my team members, why not? So it's a great gap analysis tool. But there's more. One of the common occurrences that I see when we send teams out to do stakeholder interviews, voice of customer interviews, is that frequently the activity associated with that stakeholder in the high-level map is described as one box or one big thing. But when we go in and we actually ask those stakeholders to describe the work that they perform, it's a whole bunch of activities. And I'm going to zoom in so that we can see this example play out a little bit more. Originally, when the high-level process map was created, for the cook's activity, we had it as one box called Make the Pizza. But when we went in and actually interviewed the cook, here's what the cook told us. The making of the pizza actually involves a whole bunch of other things. There's the cooking of the pizza, there is the quality check that I perform, there's actually the packaging step that I perform as well. Swim lane diagrams allow us to have an area in the map where we can take this new knowledge and put it easily into the map without modifying upstream or downstream steps that we've included in the map. It's in essence an area where I can put all of this new information I found out about the cook. Why this is helpful is that in an iterative drill down approach towards process mapping, each team member will be responsible for filling out the portions of the map that they were assigned VOC interviews to work on. So when a different team member goes to interview the delivery driver,
so now that's what he is trying to say, that each of the team member, okay, is responsible to take care of his area and to incorporate the different steps or different activities that he is responsible for. Right, so that's what you, if you remember, while we were discussing the different committees, so that's where the committee members or the head of the committee will be responsible to see to it that each of the activities within the committee are being mentioned and they are not being left out. Now, to what detailing, now we haven't gone into, for in some areas we have, yes, we have drilled down into the detailing. To what detailing aspects one needs to go depends upon the contribution that each and every activity will be making towards the purpose of the committee or towards the purpose of the stakeholder. Right now, that's what we are looking into, right? So, and all the redundant activities meaning thereby which are not required or which are not adding any value to the process, that's they will be identified during this phase and they will be removed, right? Yes, so we continue further.
driver, and they find out that they do more than just deliver the pizza. There's a whole bunch of other things that happen. They have a container, a lane that they can put all of those additional steps and activities in, and it doesn't actually mess up the space that is being used for folks that were entering information about the cook or the cashier or the customer. Makes it easy for iterative updates to the map. When we interview a stakeholder group like the cook, frequently they'll provide us with great detail about the activities that happen inside their lane. And that makes sense. That's the type of work that they do. Activities that happen upstream or downstream, they're going to have less familiarity with and probably provide us with less detail. And when they do describe all of the activities they perform in the lane, there will be unique activities as well as handoffs. And I'm going to highlight these handoffs in yellow right now, right here, handoffs and handoffs here. Those handoffs are important to understand and know, but I always want to make sure that my team members that are doing the interview, they also ask questions about the handoffs that I'm going to highlight in a different color. I always want my team members to ask questions about these upstream and downstream handoffs as well, because the handoffs in red are almost always more impactful to poor performance than the handoffs that I've highlighted in yellow. The handoffs in red, the arrows that cross swim lanes, that's a visual representation of white space in the system. Idle time handoffs between different functional groups. And here's what we know about white space. White space is one of our 4 big process inefficiency characteristics. It's one of the 4 biggies that we're always taking a look at: white space, rework loops, process variation, and visual waste. And knowing where the white space is and then being able to step back and ask questions about, do we need to quantify how big or impactful this white space is? And when we are quantifying variables that are impacting overall performance, we know that those are called CTQs. Swim lane diagrams help me to see possible CTQs, and then they can help me in prioritizing which of the CTQs should we go out and actually measure in the measure phase. So in this next example, This is a process map of a capital equipment procurement process. One of the things that I love about swim lane diagrams is that it makes it easy for team members to incorporate a timeline. And at first, this timeline of the time metrics associated with the process, they could be estimates where when we're interviewing this particular stakeholder, the business unit, we ask them, when you perform your activities up here, about how long does it take? They might say, yeah, about 3 weeks. And we can put that down as our estimate. We could go back later in the measure phase and, if important enough, actually measure this phenomena, treat it as a CTQ and refine that and find out that, it's actually 19.5 days. But the notion that you're able to include time metrics at the bottom of a swim lane diagram, that gives a lot of insight for team members and process analysts. Be careful, though, when you decide to use a timeline like this. Here's the trap that can sometimes occur. Timelines are typically drawn to the scale of the steps drawn out, not necessarily drawn out to the actual time elements. So you can see that about 1/3 of the page is spent in these first 21 days of activity. Which, okay, it might then lead team members to go, if we have to focus our limited time and resources on just a few areas for improvement, this 21 days is much bigger than the 6 days or the 15 days of activity that's happening in here or the 5 days that's happening here. But because the timelines are typically drawn to the scale of the actual steps as drawn out, team members can sometimes slip into the trap of not seeing very impactful steps that are just a single box. And so in this example, while 21 days accounts for these 3 steps, 71 days accounts for this very small receive and use step. And I get it. The only way that we could prevent this from happening is to, in essence, stretch out the receive and use box so that it takes up much, much more space, so that the timeline is drawn to scale, and we rarely ever do that. But you could, if you wanted to, or you just need to let your team members know that the timelines are not often drawn to scale. There's another concern, though, that I have with this 71-day occurrence. Anytime I see one box, one activity box that represents a significant part of overall processing time or overall lead time in the system, that's a red flag to me that the team probably hasn't gone out and interviewed folks about this or walked this part of the process. This one box is drawn only as one box because we don't have enough knowledge to know that the 71 days isn't one box, it's really 12 or 13 different steps that are going on. This is a red flag to me that we need to go out and observe and understand better what's going on there. In part 2 of swim lane diagrams, we'll take a look at some additional examples. We'll also take a look at how you can use swim lane diagrams for parallel flows, and we'll take a look at some best practice approaches when working with any type of detailed process map. We'll do that all in part 2 of the swim lane diagram video.
Yes. So that's where I think we were able to identify with the help of a swim lane diagram, white spaces or idle times that can happen. Okay, that's in the previous this thing we saw. And then, okay, what's happening? Okay, yes. And then also with the swim lane diagrams, what he tried to explain was that whenever we are showing certain shapes we are using to identify the different activities or the processes or operations that are involved, essentially as it appears to be, even if it can take, as he had circled with red, that even if it is taking 1/3 of the space of the swim lane diagram, but yes, towards the end there was another one activity that was indicated just by one box, but then it was taking somewhere 71 days. So probably whenever we see to it that the boxes that we are using, okay, and the days that we are showing towards the timeline below, they have to be drawn proportionately, so that will give a better view of what exactly we are looking into, right? And that's where, so essentially we looked into how do we try to build up how do we prepare a swim lane diagram, then how do we incorporate the different stakeholders in a swim lane diagram, at the same time how do we come up with a timeline at the bottom, and how do we match the proportion of the activities and the time duration taken by the activities that are being taking place. Now with respect to whatever activity, brainstorming activity we had done, that was in Excel sheet, and that's where we essentially look into drawing of swim lane diagram in an Excel sheet. Okay, so that's where we'll be looking into. Just a moment.
Yeah, hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to show you how to draw process charts in Microsoft Excel. So in the internet and on this site, netmind.net, for components effective process map, I saw this and I want to replicate it in Microsoft Excel. So for those of us who work Microsoft Excel and would want to present visuals of this.
Yes, are you able to listen to this or no?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Listening.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This nature or process charts of this nature, we can also just use Excel to do something like this and then use it for our presentation. Let me show you how to do that. So here we have Excel, and the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my view tab and take out the grid line. So I have just this. So the next thing I want to do is to look out for things that I would use here and bring them in. In other words, I want to look out for the objects I will use here. So here I know I have that of a stat. I know I have rectangle, I have circles, I have a decision box and all of that. So that's exactly what I would be doing here. And to do that, I will go to my insert tab, I'll go to illustrations and then shapes. So here is where I would have the shapes I would work with. Okay, so these are recently used shapes, and you can see that much of what we'll be using are here in the recently used shape. So let me pick the rectangle, and the first thing I want to do is what will be in the header. What will be in the header. So here I have technology acquisition process. So that's what I will do. Technology acquisition acquisition process. So haven't done that, I can always select it, and in my home tab I can change the color to whatever. I can also, in my format tab, I can also take out the shape outline. So I always like taking it out because, like you can see, it looks smooth and fine here. You can also select it and then either increase your text here. Let's put it at the middle, so that's it for us, so we can use it in this way. So the next thing I would like to do is to come out with the swim lanes. So I'm going to replicate this, replicate it here. Okay, I can use my arrow buttons to just adjust to where it should be, and I think it's fine. We do not need this text now, so I'm taking it out. And what I'm going to do is just extend it this way. Okay, and this time around I need an outline, so I'm going in here, pick an outline, take a line and give it a color. And once I do that, I take out the fill colors here, so I have something I can use here. So I'm going to replicate this one and just place it side by side with this, you know, and just okay, like this. And then we do a third one. That third one is just going to stay below here. Okay, so looks like we're fine. Yeah, so your arrow buttons can help you position it the way you want. So it looks like we're fine here. So 1, 2, and 3. The first one here is empty, so I'm not going to be doing anything with that. So we have executive team, business unit, and project teams. Okay, so to do that, what I will be doing is I still can use a rectangle. In fact, it's all has to do with how creative you could be with these tools. So what I'm going to do is just I'm just going to create something with this, and while it is, you can see this here, I'm just going to turn it. So there it goes in there, and just size it appropriately. Okay, so that is what it is. And then having it this way, I just replicate, and using Ctrl D, select it, and then Ctrl D like this puts it right there for us. So we're fine with this. Okay, are we? Yes, we look like. Okay, all right, that's fine. So the next thing we do is we go and look for a text box. So I have a text box here. I'm going to bring in that text box. I'll put in executive team. Okay, so once again you find out that you have this here, so it allows us to turn it in whichever way we want. This time we just want it this way. Okay, so I'm going to move it here, executive team. Let's make it a little bigger and make it white, and the font color white, and we can make it bold if we want to. So that's for that. So again, Ctrl D, I want to replicate it, and we have it here. And also there we have the other one. So here we have the project team. So I'm just going to be project team, and here we have the business unit. So you can see that it's coming into shape like this. So what I would just do is, let me just minimize it so that we can see it this way. So you can always bring it back by double clicking, and it comes up this way. Okay, So okay, so we have it this way. So we now see what things we need to bring in the, so I need so I go to my insert, and insert we go to shapes, and then we'll be bringing in our start. Okay, so here we should have it. Okay, that's it here. So I'm just going to use it here. So it's the start. So we have a start here, and I would like to just make it middle, bring it to this point, increase it a little bit, and just like that. Okay, so that's our start. I want to replicate it because I know that I have somewhere where it's going to be an end, and it's the same thing. So we just put it here and then end. Okay, so that does for that. And then we go back, and we have rectangles 1 2 3. So I'm going back to my insert. I'm going to get rectangles, and now we can pick those rectangles from anywhere, but let me just have this. There is one in each of the lanes from what we see there. So I'm going to just replicate this. I think there's one here, and there is one somewhere here. So we'll position them where they should be. Okay, actually I have two here, somewhere around here, two, and then we have the third one here. Okay, 1 2 3. Okay, then the next thing we need a decision box. So I have a decision box here. Okay, so we have this one here, and I'm going to replicate it because there is another one here, but this time a smaller one. Okay, so we'll have that one just here, and okay, so we have those two decision boxes there, and then we have this other one here. It's called off-page connector. So we're going to just pick it, and it's somewhere here. So we're going to put it somewhere here, and we're going to take out its outline. We don't want the outline there. Same for each of this. We don't want outlines for them. Okay, so there they are. So the next thing we will be doing, it's we will have this still go back to our shapes and bring in circles. What would the circles do? They would help us for the numbers. And so I'm going to use a fill color of this, take out the outline, and so it has a value of 1. Now you can see where the 1 is. It's not ideal, so you just come here and then use this for it, so to get it the way you want to. Okay, so we need to just position them where they should be. We have 1 here, and we have 1. So replicating it is easy. While it is selected, just do your Control D, and then you'll be able to have it copied. So here I'm just going to change this to 2. Okay, and the next one is replicate this, and we just move it here, change it to 3, and here we have it 4 and 5. So we replicate, move it to your desired position, and this is 4, and here I just move it down here, I think, and that's 5. Okay, so that's about what we have here. That's about what we have here. And then the next thing we'll do is bring in the arrows. Okay, so that's one interesting thing when you're working with shapes in Excel. So the arrows are here, and so we have the straight one. So once you select an arrow and bring it close to a shape, you're going to do these circles around it. You see that there are points that you can use to stick your arrows. You see, so I'm going to choose this one, hold down my mouse button, and I'm going to draw it, and I'm coming to this shape. I'm seeing another one, and I just aim at the center of it and then leave it. So what does that do? You'll see here. So you see, as I move this, they are joined together, and I can always make it straight. And then we have this one here. Okay, so that's how you're going to do for all of the others, except that the kind of arrows you choose might be different. So for this one, I'm going to pick this, and I think we have it like this coming in here. Okay, let me confirm that. Okay, that's exactly what we have. So still using this, we use it to build to this one, and then we have that there. That's this other one going. We have one coming to the end here, so we're going to pick it again, and then it's going to come from this end and to this other end. Now because we have it like this and it's joined, I can always adjust, and you can see it follows with it. You get it? And also with the arrows, I can do some adjustments in the line, and then we have this one. So doesn't it look nice? Yes, it does. We can do all of this in Excel, and then we have this other one coming from here. Okay, so I need go to my shapes and take this, and so this one goes like this. Okay, so and I want to shift this one a little bit. You get it, and give this some space here. Okay, so there we have it. You can see that it's coming to what it is here. Get another one, and so you can see how it is done. It's quite easy. Just get whatever objects you feel is appropriate, and then implement them as it is done right here. Okay, so we're going to have another one here. It's coming in from here. Okay, we're right about that, and just two more. This goes straight down to this, so go straight down to this. We might need to do, oh no, we didn't get it right, so that's better. So you see the green buttons that come up to tell us that yes, okay, we've made a connection between two objects of that sort. So you get it. So we're able to build it that way. So for this other one, all what we need to do is use same, this time an arrow. So most of the time you're going to find yourself using the elbow arrow or the elbow connector. So we just pick that, and we come to this end here. So you'll notice that they are different. Just pick this knob here, pick this point here, and try to make them fit in, so you can see that it does just what we want here. So you can see that we've done all of these things, bring them in here, and that's what we have. The next thing you need to do is bring in all whatever you want to write within it. Now I'll show you something like this one that says that approve project. Okay, so approve project. So if you see, you find out that it doesn't fit in the way we want. So how do we, what do we do to make it fit in? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to right click on it and format shape. So once you do that, you'll see this size and property icon here. So we're going to click on that icon. Clicking on that icon, we are going to come to text box. If it's not opened, if it's like this, just click on text box and you will see this. So what I need to do is come to the margins, These are the what controls the margins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce all of them to 0. So that gives me some space within here. So once I've done that, I can, you see, so we now have that there. So we can increase it, we can bring it to the middle like this, and we can increase it to as much as we can take. So that is what we have here. So most of the times you're going to find out that it may not fit in what you want to write. Just make sure that all the margins are 0, and then you adjust the size, and then certainly you're going to get it something you want inside it. So I'm going to just take some time to put in the things that are inside and come back to you. All right, so we're back again, and this is what we have. We've been able to bring in each of these things inside the box in it. So I just wanted you to see how we could bring in these things that we have here. You see, approve, reject, requirement, need more work, and all of those things in it. So let's look at how we bring in this approve into it. So what we do is that we go to our insert, we go to look for a text box, and here it is. So we put it there, and what we want to bring in is approved. So we have this approved in here. So what we just need to do is bring it in here, and I think that's where it is. Okay, so it's in there, and while it's in there, all you need to do is, you know, give it a white field. So it has a white field there, and just resize it as it should be. Let me move this a little, and so that is it. So you can see it there, and it is just as if
Yes, class. So today, that's where we can see that how can we prepare a swim lane diagram in Excel sheet. Okay, utilizing the different shapes, different arrows. How do we insert into the different the text within the boxes, or within the, what you can say, the arrows and the lanes as such. Okay, and how do we depict? So I think that was a wonderful manner of showing how do we do it in Excel, right? So now what will be expected from y'all is, with whatever brainstorming exercises that I have carried out, I'll be sharing the Excel sheet to you. Okay, and you will be coming up with a swim lane diagram in Excel with respect to the different stakeholders or the different departments, whichever way you would like to present your swim lane diagram, and accordingly how will the process move. So this is what is expected. Now before you come to the end of this, now we will be actually viewing into the different areas where the swim lane diagrams are being utilized to depict this. Okay, so that's where I think that will be your last unit as far as your syllabus is concerned. So wherein we will be actually looking into the examples of process mapping, right? So we'll be starting that with next time. I'll share the videos with you so that you have ample time. Videos that we have looked into previously, the Excel sheets, as well as this video. So wherein the PPTs I'll be sharing. So wherein you should be able to come up with the swim lane diagram. Fine. So yes, that's where we stop over here for today. Yes, we continue next time. Yes, thank you, class.